we're here to talk about some important investments that help our municipalities with many financial challenges that they have. And one of the ways that the state provides this is through a program called Aid to Municipalities, also known as AIM. This is a program that's been around for quite some time, and at the same time, this program has remained without any increases, even though the cost of whether it's infrastructure, other types of equipment continues to go up. And again, we know that our municipalities provide incredible services, whether it's paving our roads, making sure that our first responders have the equipment that they need, and so much more. And so this program has remained at the same rate since 2012 until this year. And so after a significant amount of time of advocacy by both municipal, town, village leaders, and of course, all of our colleagues, including myself, in the state legislature, we were finally able to get an increase in AIM funding in more than a decade. And so we're here today to talk about what this means for our communities. This has been a long, hard-fought battle, most certainly, because of all the reasons I've said. And we know that AIM funds most certainly are an important and integral tool that helps support our local governments. And so I want to thank all of my colleagues for being here. Because of what we were able to do in this year's budget, municipalities across the state will see an increase, in upstate New York, an increase of $50 million in AIM funding. And our local officials will share more information on what those dollars mean for them. But I think it is so important that we understand and continue to support this initiative. It is a program that really helps to, most certainly for municipalities, towns, and villages, to help them reduce costs that oftentimes have to be borne through taxes, as an example. And so this program helps to reduce some of that, and that's one of the big drivers as to why we've been pushing for the increase in funding for this program. At the same time, we know that the funding formula that is used just a little temporary, the transition. We know that the funding formula that's used to determine what towns, villages, municipalities receive in AIM funding has to be updated for all the reasons I mentioned, due to cost of living expenses, all of those things. And so again, this is an important, long, hard-fought step forward, and we look forward to continuing to advance this incredible program. And so without further ado, I would like to bring up our next speaker, who again is a great partner for me in our area in the State Assembly, and that's Assemblymember Kelles, to provide some brief remarks. Thank you.
So thank you all for being here. This is a fight that we had this budget session. Super important. I want to start thanking my Senate colleague for fighting in the Senate. I carried a bill specifically called Aim Higher with Senator Lea that was instrumental in the language that was included in the budget, so I wanted to thank her. So important. Having come from local government, I'm deeply, viscerally familiar with the struggle that local governments face, having exclusively only property tax and sales tax as the base of how they can support infrastructure and also social services. And the reason I bring social services up is because they're social services, public services specifically, which means that regardless of where someone lives, if they come into a community, they benefit from those services. If I go to New York City, I benefit from the fact that New York City funds the fire department, funds the police department. Both of those are public services. That is fundamentally the base of the rationale of why we have this funding from the state. Because the state is essentially saying, we recognize, communities, that you are providing a good to the rest of the state. Therefore, we are going to be a part of and take responsibility for partly funding that. So that not only includes those public services that I mentioned, but also includes infrastructure, right? So the more trucks that are coming from all across the state, or even out of the state, that are coming into a municipality, or the traffic that are coming from people who don't live in that community, are giving wear and tear to those roads. It is only logical then that the state would take part in helping to maintain and upgrade those roads. So super, super important to acknowledge why AIM funding exists, and it's amazing that the state in this year's budget did aim higher and did put more funding after a significant amount of time into AIM funding for municipalities to benefit these public services and the infrastructure that so many municipalities desperately need. So I wanted to thank again my Senate colleague for being part of this fight, and of course hearing from the municipalities themselves on how important AIM funding is and how this AIM funding will be used. So I want to pass it on to Mayor Steve Scott, or Scott Steve. There you go, Scott.
Thank you. We appreciate our partners from the Senate and the Assembly in making this happen. Our NICOM partners that worked hard to diligently go up and we petitioned for this to make that happen. To have this happen, I think the fire truck that's behind us is one of our oldest in our fleet, and it's probably 3 times more expensive when AIM funding was last adjusted to it is now. So that just goes to show you where we're at and where that needs to go, and certainly there's a lot more that has to. You know, as we look at the construction and listen to the construction in the background, pardon our dust, you know, we have 10 light poles that we didn't anticipate spending that are missed in the design aspect. So that's just 2 little tidbits that we have to try to cover somewhere. And this AIM funding is very valuable to all the municipalities. I'll speak for all the municipalities in Cortland County as a directive that we all appreciate it, and it's all needed in everybody's different aspects of what they try to do. So we do appreciate that effort and everything you guys have done and will continue to do in supporting our facilities that we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we give our mayor a round of applause. And I also want to acknowledge William Scott, Deputy Mayor of Portland. And next, I would like to bring up Michael Park, Town Supervisor of the Town of Homer. He's not here. Okay, we will go to the next speaker. I will acknowledge, she will not be speaking, but I want to make sure I acknowledge her. Deputy Town Supervisor of the Town of Portlandville, Amanda Rainbow, has joined us. We give Amanda a round of applause. Yes. Our final speaker is going to be Mark Whitmer, who's the Town Supervisor of the Town of Carolina, to share some remarks. Please join me in welcoming Mark.
Already? Well, I can't really add too much to what the previous speakers have said. I want to thank Senator Webb and Assemblymember Kelles for their hard work on this. I'll just point out that AIM has been underfunded for many years now and held flat for more than 10 years. And as previously been pointed out, that just makes, that's unfair and doesn't accomplish its goal of supporting us for what we need to provide our residents. I'll just share an anecdote. One of my first door-to-door in campaigning for supervisor in the Town of Caroline was with an elderly woman in the hamlet of Speeceville, and she was caring for her ailing husband in a care center some miles away. She was on fixed income, and she pointed it out to me. It's like, please, pay attention to property taxes. We're on fixed income, a lot of us here, and this really matters. So that is in my consciousness every year when we go into budget considerations. And so this revenue sharing that's provided by AIM is so important to municipalities. I think this is a really important first step, and I want to thank you for your advocacy for this. Thanks so much.
So again, as we close, this is something that as we all have denoted, has been a long process and journey to get to this point. Our work is most certainly not done, because again, to have this significant investment after more than a decade, knowing that at the same time the amount of challenges our municipalities are still struggling with, those needs haven't decreased. In fact, they have increased. And so it is our desire and most certainly intention that we continue to see this type of investment every budget cycle moving forward, because of the growing needs that our communities have. And we do have the resources as a state to help to address some of those challenges. It just requires us, as I've said time and time again, to ensure that we are centering the needs of our working families, of our community members who we know need these important resources, so that we all can have a better quality of life, a much more equitable one. And so with that, I want to thank everyone for being here, and then open it up to the press for any questions that you may have for any of the speakers.
Well, actually, I asked Catherine.